YouTube page. Just want to follow up with yesterday's video. But before we get to that, I just first want to ask, how are you doing? How are you guys getting through this quarantine chaos right now? Is this something that is just making you go stir crazy and you're getting cabin fever and all you want to do is get out and hang out with your friends? Or maybe you're enjoying this. You feel a little bit weird about enjoying this given the circumstances, but maybe it sort of just feels like an early spring break that's going to last for a few weeks. Something that I miss as your youth pastor is just being able to talk to you and catch up and see how your weeks are going. So if you want to comment on this video or send a text to me or maybe just to your small group leader, we would love to hear from you. We're really interested in how you're getting through this and maybe the ups and downs of this whole experience. But as I said, let's get into this video that Pastor Mark and I did yesterday. The first question from the discussion questions on this video is, what is friendship? And this was, of course, the question that I asked Mark right at the beginning. What is friendship? Mark made two particular points, really. He said friendship is a companionship, but not just a companionship. It's not like acquaintances or surface level relationships. Friendship is different in that it is deep. It's a deeper connection between two people. And friendship is also just a unique relationship. And this is what I said in the video. Friendship is not essential to human survival, right? It's not like parents and children. Everybody needs to have a parent. And it's not like spouses in love or spouses in romantic love, because that's how the world continues on, right? Is through people and children and so on. And so friendship is unique. In other words, we don't have to have friends. The world could still continue on without friends even existing. It's not a relationship that is exactly essential to our survival. And this is something I've learned from C.S. Lewis in his book, The Four Loves, where he writes this: friendship is unnecessary, like philosophy, like art. It has no survival value. Rather, it is one of those things which gives value to survival, just like philosophy and art. We could get through life without philosophy and without art, but those things give value. They help us to make sense of and to express what life is all about, right? So friendship is a really unique kind of human relationship and bond. And it's important biblically to then see what the Bible says about friendship and how we can make our friendships even better. So this gets us to the next question. What do these two proverbs teach us about friendship? Well, the two proverbs, of course, in mind are Proverbs 13:20 and Proverbs 18:24. Proverbs 13:20 says this: whoever walks with the wise becomes wise, but the companion of fools will suffer harm. So whoever walks with the wise becomes wise, but the companion of fools will suffer harm. So this shows us that friendship has an effect on us, whether a good effect or a bad effect. And it also shows us that friendship has a purpose, whether we think of this purpose or not as we make friends. So first, we'll look at how it has an effect on us. Friendship has an effect on us in that it changes us in certain ways. And this is what it's saying. Whoever walks with the wise becomes wise. Whoever walks with the foolish becomes foolish and will suffer harm. And so what I said in the video yesterday is that it's sort of like that spaghetti sauce that stained the bowl that I have. Friends that we make will always affect us in one way or another. It's impossible for friendship to not do this. It always will. It will always have an effect on us, whether this is a good effect or a bad effect. And so we need to be careful then about what kind of friends we're making. That's the basic point here in this proverb. This also shows us that friendship has a purpose. Friendship isn't just, or shouldn't just be about simple fun. Friendship, good friendship, true friendship, has a purpose beyond itself. Although it exists also for joy and pleasure together, sharing and communion together. But good friendships are between people who are on the same pursuit. They are pursuing the same path and the same vision of the good life, right? And so this is why we often make friends with people who are into the same things we are, who have the same interests that we do. I can remember particularly when I was in high school, I made a lot of friends with people who liked the same music as me. And the reason for this is that these music groups, these guys that I saw, uh, were living their lives with this sort of passion. They were living on the road, just making it from one show to the next. And they were just sort of toughing it out. And they didn't make a lot of money, but they were just living with passion. And I loved this lifestyle, and I made friends a lot with people who were into this same thing. And so this is why C.S. Lewis says to us, friendship is born at that moment when one friend says to another, what? You too? I thought I was the only one. All right? So that's a lot of times how our friendships start. But this makes us have to stop and ask, well, what am I longing for? If I'm going to make friends that share the same interests and longings that I do, what is it that my heart is ultimately longing for? Maybe my heart is ultimately longing for status. Maybe it's longing for money. Maybe it's longing just for a life of passion, whatever that may be. Maybe our lives are longing for love and for romance, and so we're finding friends with people who are just sort of romantic like us, and we can long together about finding something romantic in our lives, or whatever it is, or what is going on in our hearts. What are our hearts seeking after, right? And so that should be a convicting question. Then I'm going to be making friends with people who are on the same path as me. So what path am I on? What am I looking for in life? And so that's, I think, what Proverbs 13:20 is teaching us. Proverbs 18:24 says this, a man of many companions may come to ruin, but there is a friend who sticks closer than a brother. The word companions here simply means what we would say acquaintance is. Acquaintance is somebody you sort of know peripherally. You don't know the really central core of who they are, but you sort of know the basics about them. This is a lot of times people in your classes that you know that person's good at math, you know their name, you know how old they are maybe, but you don't really know them deeply. They're just sort of a companion or an acquaintance. But this verse is talking about a friend who sticks closer than a brother. This teaches us that friendship is one of the main resources for what we might call social capital. Social capital. It's a weird way of putting it, but friendship is a resource for us in times of difficulty especially. This is why it says he sticks closer than a brother. And this makes me think of a story from when I was backpacking several years ago. We got to this one mountain that there was still snow on the side of this mountain because the sun didn't touch it as much as other faces on the cliff. And so my friends and I, we all had to hike up this mountain. And the way to do that was to have ice picks, like pickaxes, and to have these things that we were hammering into the snow, these stakes that we were hammering into the snow with our axes. And we had to also then link ourselves together using cords. And the reason we had to do all of this was that if one of us slipped on the ice, which was possible and actually in fact happened a couple of times, then the rest of us would have to fall down onto our knees and dig in with our axes into the snow. So we would not all as a group tumble down the mountain. And I can tell you that when this happened, when one of my friends fell, if we did not all dig in, we would have all fallen. But the reason that we did this was that so when he fell, he actually wouldn't slide down the mountain. He was actually safe from falling all the way down. And so this is what a good picture of friendship may look like then. It's people who are bound together so that when things go wrong, they're able to survive and to continue on. So I think in this sense, I think maybe C.S. Lewis's quote could get changed a little bit. I think friendship is, biblically speaking, a part of human survival. So the third question, what are some ways we can improve our friendships and use them for God's kingdom? I'd love to hear your answers on this. So if you want to put something down below in the comments, that would be really cool. But here's just a couple of thoughts that I had for this question. First one, ask good questions. I can remember one of my best friendships that I have to this day started because somebody was willing to ask me good questions. And it was through those questions able to be vulnerable, that's the second thing. Be vulnerable. Be willing to open up and to share your heart with people. This will take trust and will take time. It's not something that will always just happen right off the bat, although some people may make you feel very safe and you may be willing to share more with them. And so I encourage you, if you want to make good friends, be vulnerable. Share about what's really going on, and ask them to help you. Ask them to pray for you. Ask them what's going on in their hearts and what's going on in their souls. And this will begin over time to really make for a deep friendship. And I've seen this time and again in my own life. All of my best friends are my best friends because we were able to be vulnerable and to ask each other good questions. The third thing, be intentional about spending time with one another. This is one of the most simplest things. There I go again. This is one of the simplest parts of friendship, just spending time with one another, enjoying each other, talking about maybe your common interests or pursuits, and also just talking about life in general. That's a crucial part of friendship. Another one is pray together. This one may feel a little bit uncomfortable, but it's definitely an important part of friendship. So I want to invite you to pray for one another, not just pray and say, I'll pray for you tonight, or I'll pray for you tomorrow or next week, but to say, hey, can I pray for you right now? We've had this conversation, and I feel like we should bring this to the Lord. That's a really important part of friendship as well, showing your spiritual care for another person. And the fifth thing that I would want to say to this is practice hospitality. Use your friendship as a way of inviting others into the community of Christ. I can remember back when I was in college, I lived in this house that we called the Res House or the Residency House, and it was Christian guys living together to study the Word and to work at our churches, to do community outreach and evangelism, and so on. And this house, because we all became such close friends, we were able to all invite our different friends over, and this became sort of a hub for people to hang out and to love one another. People who knew the Lord, some people who didn't, and it was a really cool way of us just welcoming people into this community and into our friendships that we had with each other. And so our friendships sort of expanded and multiplied exponentially. The fourth question: in your own life, what have been some positive and negative impacts of friendships you've had? I can tell you about many positive and negative friendships that I've had in my life, but I'll stick with the positives here first. So the first things I can think of are how my friends have pushed me to pursue things that I would have never thought possible. So I've had many friends who have pushed me in my theological knowledge, and this is especially true of seminary. I can think of several friends in seminary who I would meet with constantly, sometimes intentionally, sometimes really on accident. We would just meet up and we'd start talking about these things, and they'd have good questions for me and make me think about my walk with Christ, and they would challenge me to think more and to point out errors in my thinking. And we were passionate always about growing in our faith, and so we'd make each other feel challenged in doing that, and we put questions to one another about what each other thought, and we would try to pick each other's brains, and we would push each other. We'd give books to one another. So that was a really cool thing. Another thing I can think of is one of my friend Luke, helped me get through seminary just by paying monthly financially to get me through. He cared about me so much, and our friendship meant so much to him that he gave money to get me through seminary, which was huge and crucial. And Luke's actually several years younger than I am, so he was working this job, he got married, and he was still spending money to get me where I knew I wanted to be, and that was crucial to me, having that kind of a good friend. There's also been friends that have dragged me down, friends that have gotten me really off the path that I wanted to be on. And so over the years, I've had to shed those friendships, however hard that it's been. It's not always easy to lose friends, but that has been true and necessary at certain points in my life. The fifth question: how can we discern whether or not a particular friendship is good or bad for us? Often this is actually clearer than we would think. Sometimes we just know, right? You just know when there's a certain friend that you have that, as much as you may love this person and care about this person, and you should, sometimes you just know that this isn't a great, healthy thing for you. What's harder is knowing that often we become friends with people because, again, we're on the same paths as them. We're pursuing similar interests and lifestyles that they are. And so we have to ask ourselves why is it that I feel so drawn to being friends with people who I know are pulling me down? And there we need to do some heart work and really get into how that friendship really got started, This isn't to say that, however, that our friendships with these kinds of people shouldn't exist. Of course, Jesus reaches out to people who are quote unquote sinful, and bad people, people who need to be loved and cared for, right? So there's wisdom in how we do this. Is this person negatively affecting us, or are they positively affecting us, and are we having a Christian positive impact on them? Are we sharing the good news with them? So this is a tricky question, and there's sort of a fine balance that needs to be struck in answering it. But we do need to be careful to not be the companion of the fools who will bring us harm. This can happen very easily if we're not careful. The sixth question, the final question: in a time of social distancing such as this, how can we proactively work to keep our friendships alive and well? And why is this so important for our well-being? Well, it's so important for our well-being because, again, friendship adds value to our life. It's like art or philosophy or the things that we may not think are completely essential, but that really at the end of the day make life worth living. Friendship is a gift from God. This is why God calls us to be friends with Him. But what can we do then to be proactive in keeping our friendships alive and well? And your guess is as good as mine, but I think the best way to do this is to reach out. Just yesterday, I met with two of my friends who I've never met with in this way. We got on that app called Zoom, and we video conference called one another for about 2 hours. We've never done this before, but because now we're all in this quarantine situation, we found the time to just reach out and hang out. And we all decided, why haven't we done this more? We should do this more often in the future. And so I challenge you guys to do that. Reach out to one another. Maybe go through these questions with each other. Don't let your friendships fall by the wayside. Don't let your friendships wither, but make sure you pour into them. You continue feeding your friendships, and this will require time set aside to deepen these friendships with each other. So the best way to do that, I think, is probably through FaceTime or Zoom or Skype or just maybe a phone call. If nothing else, at least send a few texts to people and check in and see how they're doing with this little situation. And that's all my answers to all of these questions, but I'd love to hear from you guys. If you guys are struggling, again, if you're having a good time with this, we want to hear from you. So go ahead and share in the comments below about what's going on, or again, text one of your small group leaders. We're going to get through this. It's going to be a unique couple of weeks ahead, but I'm not worried about it. I think this actually will be kind of cool, just like yesterday with my friends. We'd never done that before, and just like today, we've never done this before, but this maybe is a new opportunity for us to grow even deeper. And this is a time of us being tested, our youth group being tested. And I hope that we will show that we are up to the challenge. And so I love you guys, and take care, stay safe, wash your hands, do all that stuff, and I'll catch you guys in the next few days. All right? See you guys.